Aloha, everyone, and welcome. My name's Phyliss Francis Wigfall, and I want to welcome you to Breaking Through Your Glass Ceiling, How to Unlock Your Leadership Potential and Take Your Career to the Next Level. The intention of this summit is to explore the topic of breaking through your internal and external glass ceiling to get to the level of success you desire. I'm so excited. We have an amazing guest here today. We have Dr. John Demartini from Australia. Welcome, Dr. John Demartini.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yes, and I wanted to share a little bit about Dr. Demartini. Dr. John Demartini is a world-renowned specialist in human behavior, a researcher, author, and global educator. He has developed a series of solutions applicable across all markets, sectors, and age groups. His education curriculum ranges from corporate empowerment programs, financial empowerment strategies, self-development programs, relationship solutions, and social transformation programs. His teachings start at the core of the issue, addressing the human factor, and range out to a multitude of powerful tools that have proven the test of time. He's studied over 29,000 books across all defined academic disciplines and has synthesized the wisdom of the ages, which he has shared on stage in over 60 countries. And his presentations, whether they're keynote seminars or workshops, leave clients with insights into their behavior and keys to their empowerment. I'm so excited to have you here because I did your program, the Breakthrough Experience, a few years ago in Los Angeles, California, and I have to say it was one of the most amazing programs I had done, and I've done a lot of self-development programs. But what I loved about your work is it was so original, like the techniques and the strategies that you gave us, the tips to be able to have a breakthrough and work through past stories was brilliant. Like, I found it to be really, really original. And so I'm so excited to have you here to share some of this wisdom with the audience here that are listening.
Well, thank you for having me. This is great to be here.
Yes, and I'd love for you to share. Okay, so 29,000 books. you have done your homework.
Yeah, I've just reached the 30,000 just recently, so I've just broke that market.
Oh my gosh, that's
we've done 30,000 books.
Wow. And so how did you get here? How did you have this, you have an amazing story about how you started this journey of self-development, but to even get to this point of reading 30,000 books and just such the interest in human behavior, would you mind sharing a little bit about your story?
Well, I guess how much time you want to do on it, but I'll try to be brief. I went to a speech pathologist when I was very young, like a year and a half old, until about 5 or so. I had learning problems, speech problems. I was born with my arm and leg turned in, so I had some deformities. In first grade, my first grade teacher told my parents, "I'm afraid your son will never be able to read or write or communicate, never amount to anything, never go very far in life." I only made it through the elementary school with the help of the smartest kids by asking them questions. And they would read and they would tell me what they got out of it. And that got me through elementary until I turned 12. When I moved from Houston, Texas to Richmond, Texas, I didn't have a group of smart kids, so I ended up failing and dropping out of school. So I started being a street kid from about 13 on, and hitchhiked out to California at 14, was a surf buff and street kid, and then eventually made it to Hawaii to ride big waves because I got into surfing. And did what every kid did in the 1960s and 70s back then, and almost died when I was 17. Then one night I met this amazing man named Paul Bragg, who inspired me to do what I'm doing today at a lecture hall that he gave. He gave a little lecture to 35 people. I happened to be one of them. And that was the beginning of a new journey for me, and that was when I believed for the first time in my life that maybe I could overcome my learning problems and learn how to read. And I wanted to be intelligent, I wanted to be a teacher, and I wanted to travel the world. So 44 years later, here I am, still learning,
yes,
still teaching, and traveling the world. But I didn't
wow,
really start reading until I was 18. And once I did, I had a commitment to learn how to read and to master reading. And I kept looking at how I could read more efficiently and effectively to catch up with everybody else. And then I started to excel. So I used to read, an average of about 4 to 7 books a day. And some weekends I'd read, 20 books in a weekend or something. And I used to just devour literature so I could try to catch up with the rest of the students. And I guess I've never stopped. And I love researching and writing and traveling and teaching today.
I mean, that's so amazing. The topic of today's program is unlocking your leadership potential. And I love your story because, you were told that you won't be able to speak, to read, and it's like, and now you've read 30,000 books. This is amazing how you were able to really break through this perceived or these limitations that were placed upon you, and you were able to, not even just overcome them, but beyond it, like master them at a level that most people will never get to in their life. What was that piece? What was it that had you?
Well, when I left Hawaii and came back to Texas, I flew to California and hitchhiked back to Texas. When I got back to Texas, my mom and dad suggested that I try to take a GED, which is a high school equivalency test, because it would help me with jobs. And I guessed, and I passed. And then they said, well, since you passed that test, you never know when you might want to go back to school. Why don't you take an ACT test, which is a college entrance exam? Right. And I guessed, and I passed. It was just by guessing.
That's amazing.
I almost felt like I couldn't even read the freaking questions. So I thought this was kind of spooky. It was like there was a higher power kind of running the show for a moment there. And then I went to actual college. My first class I took two classes that summer, English and history. And I took my first test, and the first test I took in history, I got a 27, and I bombed it just miserably. And I was devastated. I couldn't help but hear my first grade teacher in my head. I thought, well, I'll never read or write or communicate, everything else. And I drove home crying, and I thought, well, maybe this dream about being a teacher and traveling the world is just a delusion. And my mom found me crying in the living room. She saw me in the living room. She said, son, what happened? What's wrong? And I said, well, I blew the test. I guess I'll never be able to read. I thought I was going to turn things around because I'd passed those other two tests by guessing. I thought that maybe it would be easier, and I just don't think I have what it takes. And she said something to me that really made a difference. She said, son, whether you become a great teacher and philosopher and travel the world like you dream, whether you go back to Hawaii and ride big waves like you've done, or return to the streets and panhandle as a bum, I just want to let you know your father and I are going to love you no matter what. Well, when she said that, I just got into tears. My hand went into a fist. I looked up and I saw a vision of me speaking. And I said to myself, I'm going to master this thing called reading and teaching and learning. And I'm going to do whatever it takes, travel whatever distance, pay whatever price to give my service of love across the planet. And I got up and I said to myself, I'm not going to let anything on the planet stop me from my mission, not even myself. I got up, I hugged my mom, I went in my room, and I got the dictionary out. And with my mom's help, I memorized 30 words, how to spell them, how to use them in a sentence, and what their meaning was. And I added 30 words a day, and we didn't go to bed until I learned 30 new words a day until my vocabulary was strong enough where I was starting to pass school. And then I just kept doing that and started reading dictionaries and encyclopedias and kept expanding that to try to pass. And it was so invigorating, so inspiring to know that I was actually beating it this time. And I started excelling, and I guess because everybody else took schooling for granted, I didn't, and I just wanted to, so I just started living in the libraries and just reading all day. It's just like, wow, I've got a whole new world that's available to me now.
That's so amazing. I mean, what a story. What a story. And now, of course, you're writing books, not only reading, and you're presenting, and you're doing exactly the vision that you saw. That is amazing.
Well, I'm a firm believer that it doesn't matter what you've been through or what you're going through or what you're experiencing. What matters is, do you have a dream and you're willing to work towards it? I try to tell people that if you stay with something and build momentum up, eventually your momentum gets so powerful that nothing can stop you. I always say nothing mortal can interfere with an immortal visionary. So you just got to give yourself permission to keep going. Never give up on something. Perseverance is the thing that conquers most things.
Perseverance. I mean, that's so true. And your commitment. I mean, you were committed. You are committed. And so, like you said, using that commitment to stick with it, you wouldn't go to bed until you learned those 30 words. That was part of, that was the start of it, is that discipline.
Well, I say today that every human being lives with a set of priorities, a set of values. And whenever you're doing something that's extremely high in the value, the highest value, you spontaneously are inspired from within to do it. And I just tapped in at that age, I think, just tapped into what that was. And so often I run across people that seem to struggle with that. And they're so used to subordinating to outer influences and comparing themselves to other people and injecting the expectations and values of other people into life that they cloud the clarity of what's inspiring to them. And finding out what really is inspiring to them can open up the doorway of extraordinary capacities, I think, in every human being. I'm certainly certain that it's nothing to do with me. I just found out what was inspiring to me. And I've seen people, many people, who once they find that, they really excel and they build momentum just like I did. It's nothing unique to me. It's just I just happened to tap into what was important to me.
And how do you support people with being able to tap into what's important for them, like connect with their values?
Well, what I did is I developed, I tried to, and I asked people, what is it that's really important to you? Many people would be confused. They would tell me what they think it should be, ought to be, supposed to be, got to be. They used all the imperative language they'd picked up from individual or collective authorities. And very few people could get past those clouds and get to find the sunny truth of what was inspiring to them. And so what I did is I found a way past that. I found a series of value determination processes that help people get past their facade. And I asked people 13 questions today to help determine what's really valuable to them. And I look at how people feel their space. Because things that are really, really, really valuable to you, you keep around you. And things that aren't, you push away. Get out of your space because you don't want it in your space. So I look at what you fill your space with. And then I find out what it is that you always make time for, that nobody has to remind you to. You just always make time for and spend your time on. I look at what it is that energizes you, because when you're doing something that's high in your values, you're energized. And when you're not, you're drained. So what is it that energizes you, and what is it you always have energy for? The fourth one is, what is it you spend your money on? Things that are valuable to you, you'll make money and you'll find the money for it because it's really valuable for it. Things that aren't valuable for you, you don't want to spend your money on. And the fifth one is, what is it you're most organized in and ordered in? Because you have order and organization around things that are valuable and you get disordered around things that are not. It's not. And the next one is where you're most disciplined. You're spontaneously disciplined from within on the thing that's really valuable to you. But if you are assuming that you're supposed to be doing something that's not important to you, you keep frustrating yourself and getting sidetracked. So finding out what you're most disciplined on and what nobody has to remind you to do, that's the key. Then the next three are, what do you visualize? What do you think about? What do you visualize? And what do you affirm internally in your internal dialogue about how you want your life that shows evidence of coming true? And you'll find that those answers are the same or similar in most cases. And the next one is, what do you converse with other people about most? You tend to talk about what's important to you. You have people come up to you and say, how's your children, or how's your business, or how's your investments, or how's your golf game? They always want to talk about what's valuable to them. And the next one is, what is it that inspires you? What is it, the thing that brings tears of inspiration out? And what's common to the people who inspire you? Because usually what people inspire you are representations of things you want to do in your own life. And the next one is, what is the three most consistent, persistent goals that you have that you would love to create that are showing evidence of coming true? And the last one is, what is it you love studying about, reading about, learning about, and listening to about? Because, in fact, everything that you really value, you can't wait to learn. So if I go through all 13 value determination processes, questions, and then go in and identify the top three answers, I'll have 39 answers. And then I'll see some of the same answers repeatedly answer the same answer. Same thing shows up. And then I look through that and I go, okay, which one shows up most frequent, second most frequent, third most frequent? And it's usually very blatant and obvious which ones stand out. The top one is the most important one, and your identity revolves around it. And this is what you're dedicated to. And the second you identify what your top value is, and top three values particularly, you now know where you're going to excel, where you're going to achieve, where you're going to be inspired, and where you're going to be spontaneously available to make up a leader. Anytime we are setting goals that are aligned and congruent with the highest value, we naturally wake up and emerge as a leader. And the second we don't, and we keep trying to fill in the values of other people and trying to be somebody we're not, we shrink, we cloud our clarity of our own mission, and we end up being a follower. So we have the capacity to wake up leadership in any human being. I'm certain. I've been doing it for many years. And but most people are subordinating and living in the shadows of people instead of standing on the shoulders of giants.
I love this questions, and I remember when I went through your experience, we went through a whole process around this, and I found it to be extremely powerful. And you're so right. The stuff that we value are the things that it's true for me that I find that I connect with and make time for easily. But I love what you even said about leadership, and so I'd love for you to talk a little bit more about the authentic leadership, because that's a word that's being thrown around a lot, more so now than it has before. And I'd love to hear more about, like you said, one of the ways we connect to it is being able to connect with our values and kind of live into them. But
well,
say more about that.
anytime you set a goal or an intention that is truly aligned and congruent with what is highest on your value, since your highest value is what your identity is, so your life revolves around it. The second you do, you're spontaneously inspired from within. You automatically have more objectivity and reason. You automatically expand your space and time horizons. You achieve more. You're more confident to tackle bigger challenges. You activate your executive center, which is more inspiring vision, strategic planning, executing plans, and self-governance. You're more masterful, and you automatically have more certainty about what you're doing. So you have the capacity. I'm certain that any human being who identifies what they value most and starts prioritizing their life around it and delegating lower priority things, they will blow their mind on how fast they become awakened into their leadership. So it's not some people at a very young age find it, and some are much older before they find it. Some never find it. But finding that can be a catalyst and a trajectory change in a person's life. And it doesn't matter what it is. I mean, Rose Kennedy dedicated her life to raising a family of world leaders. That was their highest value, and she succeeded at it. So she was a leader of mothers raising families of world leaders. So whatever it is, you got to give yourself permission to do it. So many people are comparing what theirs is to everybody else's and thinking, well, theirs isn't good enough. And so they try to be somebody they're not. They try to envy other people and imitate other people, and then they squash themselves. And they end up with the A, B, C, D, E, F, Gs of negativity inside themselves. So it's so important to basically get clear about what's truly important to you and prioritize your life accordingly and give yourself permission to shine in that area.
Yeah. I love that you say that, because there are so many people out there that are in a job that they feel stuck in, or in a career that they're not passionate about, but feel like, well, how can I do what I really want to do? How am I going to make money or make a living? What do you say to people that are feeling trapped?
Well, that's the same question I received last night in Perth here, because we had about 400 to 500 people at a talk last night, and the gentleman said, well, what do you do if you're in a job that you're not inspired by, but and you want to break free from that? Well, I said, well, first, until you decide what you really would truly love to do and put together a master plan and a strategy on how to go and move towards it, even if it takes a period of time to do it, you'll be trapped in something that's not inspiring because you haven't clarified what it is that you're going to do. So in the meantime, there's two things it's wise to do. Start building a master plan of what you want to do. Start with what you know and let what you know grow. And then take the job description that you currently have and ask how specifically is these individual job duties and responsibilities helping me take another step closer towards what I really want to do, what's really high in my values. And if once you answer that question and see how your job duties are on the way, not in the way, you'll see that they're a catalyst and a stepping stone, not a stumbling block, to get you what you want. And once you see them on the way, not in the way, you're freed to move another step closer towards what you want. But if you never decide what you want, you're going to be always working for somebody else. So you have to go inside and have the courage to define what's really valuable to you and start orchestrating a job and curriculum of a pathway, you might say, to help serve people. Because if you don't get paid to do what you love, you'll be doing something else. You'll have a split psychosis where you'll be having a Monday morning blues, Wednesday hump days, thank God it's Fridays, a week friggin' ends. The key is to basically make your vocation your vacation and be able to do something that's meaningful, that serves people, that makes an income so you can afford to delegate lower priority things and get on with the most important things.
I love that. Make your vocation your vacation. And I love the way that you're relaying it. It's not like something that I can, magical thinking. It's about getting clear about it, making a plan and working towards it, and understanding that it can take time, but you can still get there.
Well, you know,
right.
it's not the destination. Everybody thinks, well, when I get here, I'll be happy or something. That's delusional. I don't even search for happiness. Happiness is such a shallow thing today. I think that's a waste of time. I'm more in search of meaning. As Aristotle said in his times, there's hedonism, which is a temporary happiness, and then there's meaning. And finding what's highest on your value is the meaning one. And finding what's low on your value is an immediate gratifying happiness seeker. And people that are searching for happiness are the saddest people I've met. People that are interested in serving the world with meaning are the people that have most fulfillment in life. So a leader is somebody who's doing something not for immediate gratification, but for long-term vision that is meaningful, that serves other people, that challenges them so they keep innovating cutting-edge information to serve more efficiently. This is the key of leadership.
Oh, I love that. That's super important. And what do you say to people that feel like what leadership is, some people either have it or some people don't? What is your response to that?
Well, I don't agree with that. I think that every human being has the capacity to wake up leadership. It just may be in an area that they didn't anticipate. Because what they're doing is they're comparing themselves to other people with a different set of values and expecting to excel in an area that's not valuable to them, and that's not going to work. Your perceptions, your decisions, and your actions are based on what you value most. And so you tell me what you value most, I'll tell you where you'll excel. So if you expect a cat to be great at swimming or a fish to be great at climbing, they're going to end up beating themselves up, thinking there's something wrong with them. Right. This is what a lot of people do. They keep expecting to be somebody that they're not destined to be. It's not where their heart is. And this is what's foolish. That's why we're not here to envy other people or imitate other people or live in their shadows. We're here to find out what's inspiring to us and start prioritizing our daily actions towards those things. And once we do, we'll excel. So I can take anybody. I don't care what they are. Once we find out what their values are, see, what happens is that they may discover that their values are not what they hoped. They may discover that the values aren't what everybody else around them expects. And so they're afraid of getting rejected. They're afraid of not fitting into this ideal that society imposes. Instead of finding out what's meaningful to them and excelling in that and allowing that to grow, I've yet to find something that's meaningful to somebody that they can't make a great living out of, and some of them great fortunes out of. So it's a matter of taking the time to structure. And one of the great questions in life that I started learning is, what is it I would absolutely love to do, and how do I get handsomely paid to do it? And what are the 7 highest priority action steps I can do today that'll move me one step closer to that reality? And then what obstacles might I run into, and how do I solve in advance? And then what worked and what didn't work today? And then how do I do it more effective and efficiently? And then how did whatever I experienced, whether positive or negative, supportive or challenging, how did it help me move one step closer? If you do that, there's no way you won't get your goals, because you've got the right questions in your mind, and the quality of your life is based on the quality of the questions you ask. So asking those questions and taking action every single day, it's inevitable that you'll get your outcome. And there's no way you cannot get paid handsomely for doing something that you love. There's no reason to go through life not with anything less than that, really. But we ask the right questions, we change the trajectory of our life.
I love what you're saying here, especially because I'm thinking about your values determination process, those 13 questions, and starting with something that you value, starting with something that's important to you, that seems to be very key in being able to support you with maintaining that momentum and that commitment. But I also hear what you're saying is it's not about the outcome, it's also about the journey, like the process.
It is a journey because, people always say, I have people come up to me and they say, oh, Dr. Demartini, you're a success or something. I never think of myself as success. That didn't even cross my mind. I always just think of myself as I'm a man on a mission, that I'm here fulfilling my life, doing what I love to do. And there's so many milestones along the way, just arbitrarily say you're a success is really kind of shallow, in my opinion. I always say that success and failure are feedback mechanisms to keep you focused on what's really important. If you start to think you're successful, you're probably on your way down. If you start to think you're a failure, you're probably on the way up again. It probably refocuses you back. So I always say just keep focusing on the mission. Being a man on a mission, I think, is way more fulfilling than a temporary illusion of success or failure, those kind of things. Those are just feedback systems.
And that's a great way to look at it, too, as feedback. So not labeling it as good or bad or or I'm doing well or I'm not.
No,
it's just basically, yeah.
It's true. The second you set, if you get cocky and you think you're successful, you'll tend to set too big of goals in too short a time frame just to humble you. You know, you got so successful, I stopped doing the thing that got me there. That's an old proverb. And even Keogh, that ran Coca-Cola Company, says, I'm leery of people that think they're successful. They're usually on their way down. That's like Enron. You know, they were right before they had their fall. They were all cocky and thinking they're successful. And I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in being grateful for doing what you love every day that's making a difference in the world, that you keep expanding your horizons. Because with expanded horizons, there's no definition of success. It doesn't have any meaning anymore. It's just a journey of a mission to see how much you can contribute to the planet. And the fulfillment, I always say that you want to be as altruistic as you can to serve as many people as you can, and as narcissistic as you can to live the greatest life that you can, could both exemplify possibilities to enhance other people's drive. And as Einstein said, that the greatest teacher is exemplification. If you exemplify an extraordinary life, you give permission for other people to go for the same.
And so it's like you lead by example.
Exactly. That's the greatest teacher.
I mean, that's really cool. And I love a lot of, I mean, you've said a few times with the altruistic of just finding meaning, you know, serving the world. And do you find that when you're finding something that's meaningful and then pairing it with something that could be of service to the world, that makes it easier, that helps support
that's the key.
The momentum?
Well, there's a thing called equity theory. And equity theory means that if you exaggerate yourself and puff yourself up and think you're successful and think you're better than others, you'll lose contact and you'll lose relationship to other people, and you won't listen to their needs, and you'll project assumptions, and they'll withdraw from you because they're not meeting your needs. And then if you minimize yourself and exaggerate other people, you'll negotiate away your profits on the negotiation table. But if you have equity where you and they are the same, and you're not exaggerating or minimizing yourself, but you're staying in a state of equanimity, and you communicate in their values, and you meet the needs of them and yourself, you have sustainable fair exchange. This is the one that grows. So, you know, the leaders are the people that look for challenges in the world. I tell people, if you really want to go make a difference in the world, go find something that's got a service out there, a need that you can serve, the one that overlaps where you're inspired most, find the niche and go after it. Try to serve it, because the bigger the problem you can solve in the world, the bigger your life you get.
And I like that.
I said
I've heard you say that before. Go ahead.
I said last night how many of you, I asked the people last night, 450 people, I said, how many of you use Microsoft Windows? Well, everybody put their hands up almost. I said, well, that's why he's a billionaire. He found something everybody needed. Now let's go out and do the same. Let's go do something that people need. I happen to focus on anything to do with maximizing human awareness potential, help people be grateful for their lives and do extraordinary things. I don't know of anybody that doesn't want to do that. So I've got a niche, and I just keep targeting it and mastering that skill, and I provide service to that, and then I have business. I never have to worry about business if I serve people.
I really love that, pairing the two together. It's true. So being of service and also, like you said, you help people with finding fulfillment, but not fulfillment, because we said we're not looking for happiness, but being able to connect with what they value and being able to serve a purpose that inspires them. Well,
I call that fulfillment. I call happiness half-fulfillment, sadness the other half, and love fulfillment. So fulfillment is an old Gnostic term called pleroma. It means the fullness of life, the wellness of life. It was called eudaimonia by Aristotle. And I believe that we have access to that. And my experience of studying the brain, we have a sensory cortex and motor cortex. The motor cortex is for service, and the sensory cortex is for reward. And if we put the two together, we have a full brain, and we have a fullness of a life, and our autonomic nervous system balances, and our physiology maximizes, and we feel grateful for life because we feel like we've had a life worth living. We don't have Bonnie Ware's regrets at the end of our life because we did something authentic in life that served, that rewarded us. And people saw that and then inspired them to do the same. And we created a chain reaction, a nuclear reaction in society that gave permission for other people to do those extraordinary things.
That's amazing. And so, gosh, I mean, this is such a rich and deep conversation. And I love how tangible and how easy you make it sound with being able to start with what's important to you, being able to get clear about what your what the goal is, and then just experience the journey and create meaning and value as
Phil,
you move through it. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Phyllis, on my website, drdemartini.com, there's a value determination process that's complimentary. It's free for people. And I tell people in corporations, I tell people in governments, anywhere where I work, I tell them go online and do the value determination. Follow it to the letter. Don't bullshit yourself. Get real answers. Be honest with yourself on the answers. Don't write down what you think it should be or ought to be or supposed to be or wished it would be or hope it would be. Write down what your life demonstrates. Your life demonstrates what you value. Your actions speak louder than your words. Just look carefully at what you'd really do, and that will give you an honest evaluation of what's really important to you. Then that's where you're spontaneous. That's where you automatically are loving to do things. Accessing that is mastery of life. Why would we want to go through life and not master life? Why would we want to go through and not have fulfillment? It doesn't make any sense. Why live for immediate gratification when you can do something deeply fulfilling that lasts and leaves a legacy?
That has me thinking, and it's so great. And I love that you have a values determination process on your website so that people can walk themselves through this process themselves to get connected to what's important to them.
On the website, they go there. There's complimentary interviews, radio, television, newspapers, magazines. There's thousands of interviews on there that can help people. It's free education. It'll help people. And you might as well put your hand in the pot of glue so the glue sticks. If you do, you're automatically going to increase the probability of doing something you love in life. I mean, it's your life. You only have, so many years on this planet, and it goes quicker than you think. And I was looking out in the audience last night. There were some 60 and 70-year-olds out there, and I said, how many of you, now that you're in your 60s and 70s, look back and go, it's going quicker than you thought? And you realize, it's your life. If you don't fill your day with high-priority actions that inspire you, it fills up with low-priority distractions that don't. If you don't fill up your life with high-priority actions that inspire you, it fills up with low-priority distractions that don't.
That's key. That is key. Gosh, I love this conversation because it's making me think of, there's so many things that I love to do that I don't do anymore. Some of my artistic expressions and just things that I enjoy. It's like it's so easy for us to get so busy in life because there's so many distractions, the phones, just all of the stuff out there. And what you say is key is to fill your life up with stuff that is a priority, that you enjoy, and that can change it right there.
Well, if you don't... nobody's going to get up in the morning. I joke with people. I said, there's no genie out there that you can rub the lamp for and that's there to do your bidding. It's up to you. Nobody's going to get up in the morning and dedicate their life to you except you. So if you're not doing it, nobody's doing it. And if you're not, everybody else is going to infiltrate you with expectations and demands, and then your fear of rejection will keep you distracted into lower priority things, and then you'll end up at the end of the day with lower self-worth. You have to say no to things that are not important and say yes to the things that are, and find that one thing that you'd love to dedicate your life to. If you want to make a difference, the best way to make a difference is to be unique. And the way unique is to live according to your own unique set of values and be that person. As Gandhi said, first they ridicule you, then they violently oppose you until you become self-evident, then they join you. And you have to be willing to go out that path and be a cutting-edge person that becomes you. And when you do, you'll be surprised. You'll inspire other people to them to do the same.
That's really amazing. And I do know from my experience in your programs, you take us through multiple processes to get connected to that and to be able to create a plan to move towards that. And so I really appreciate that.
Well, I always say start with what you know and let what you know grow. Start with what you're certain about, that you're dedicated to, that your life demonstrates, and build from it. That's how you develop a true mission statement. That's how you build true goals. Setting up fantasies are self-defeating. People are always trying to get rid of their fears, but the fears are feedback mechanisms to let them know that they're going after fantasies. When they set real goals, they don't have fears, and they don't have fantasies. They have real action steps. Their executive center sees it in their mind's eye, and they see the strategies. They take actions on it. They're not filled with fantasies or phobias. They're just inspired.
Yeah, gosh, there's so much rich things that you say. I almost have to re-listen to them again because it's so deep. There's such words of wisdom. This is really great stuff. And so for people, with the leadership, we talked a lot about leadership and stepping into our power. I mean, would you say that, leadership, the term is, like I said, we talked earlier about how it's been something that's kind of changed over the years and has kind of meant different things. Now people are about stepping into their unique power. But you're talking about your leadership shines through when we connect to what's important to our own unique set of values. I mean, that is how you...
Well, our highest value. Our highest value. Not
value.
just our values, but our highest value. And, I've been studying leadership and studying it all the way back into Machiavelli and going back to Plato and going back to the Greek philosophers and the Egyptian philosophers and as far as back as we can trace. Believe it or not, it hasn't changed. We have different words for it. We take old wine and put it in new bottles, but the reality is there are certain principles of leadership that stand the test of time. And I would rather stand the test of time and find principles that are valuable than to come up with, fantasies that are new. And I always see that in economics. Economics is economics. And we go on, if we serve people and we fulfill their needs, they pay us. And we get wealthy. Yeah. And there's no shortcut around that. There's no new economics, really. It's about serving people and making a difference in people. And the more effective and efficient you do that, the more income you make. That's the way it works. So we think that there's new things, and we like to sell the fantasy that, this is the newest way to do it. But the reality is that there's some principles that stand the test of time. And I'd rather study the classics than the fads. I'd rather build on a stone than on quicksand. I'd rather build on something that's going to stand the test of time. That's why I study the greatest teachings, the greatest writings, the greatest philosophers, the greatest thinkers, the greatest leaders I can get my hands on and sift through that and find the things that can build a monument on. And if you do, you'll leave a legacy if you build momentum pursuing what's inspiring to you.
Yeah, that's true, and I think that's why the work that it's so rich and so relevant because, like you said, you do study ancient philosophies that really they stand the test of time, like you said, and they're so relevant to who we are today. I mean, wow, what a gift to be able to hear. Mm-hmm.
If you look very carefully, I mean, one of my things that I love reading is the Nobel Prize winners. Their writings, their research, their Nobel Prize-winning speeches, things of this nature, anything I can get my hands on. And when I read them, these are individuals that spent anywhere from, minimum 10 years to sometimes 60 or 70 years pursuing the answers to certain questions that they intuitively sensed that would solve the world problems and serve people, and they pursued it. And they would not have pursued it. They would not have had the courage and the dedication and the perseverance to pursue it if they didn't believe that there was some sort of rational order in the universe that had a mathematical relationship. And so these individuals pursued it, and they were persistent in a pursuit of seeing what no people could see, no one else could see. And I think that this is the foresight of the human mind when we're living congruently with our highest values. The foresight, the intuitive and inspired foresight that we have is where we capture the cutting edge of opportunity and potential contribution to the planet. So living by the highest values opens up that forebrain, the prosencephalon, and allows foresight. Instead of learning through trial and error like an animal, we have the capacity to do something beyond the animals, and that is to see things with inspired vision and then go into action to go and make the unseeable seen. And this is the true leader that can see it in the future and bring it into reality.
I like that. That's good. Gosh, I mean, this is such a great topic, great conversation. Is there any parts that you want to share about that we didn't get to in this interview that you feel that's important?
Well, just don't let the comparison of yourself to any other person interfere with the magnificence of who you are. The magnificence of who you are is far greater than any fantasies you'll impose on yourself. So give yourself permission to be the real you. The real you is powerful. The real you is inspired. The real you is ingenious. The real you has visions of possibility. The real you cares. Get past the false you. Get past the comparing you. And just simply prioritize what's really you and start digging into that and start following that. And you give yourself permission to do something extraordinary instead of being ordinary. And I think deep inside that's what everybody wants. I mean, I go around speaking to people. I find that's what everybody's desiring. So go for it, but give yourself permission to do it. It's not going to be easy. Don't expect life to be easy. Expect life to be work, and there's effort in there. But the rewards of that make the work seem like nothing.
Yeah. And how do you support people in not comparing? Because a lot of people like to compare it to kind of see, oh, this is my progress, or I'm on the right path, or I'm doing well, through comparing to other people. What do you tell people to do instead of using the external or role models or whatever it is that they're using to see how they're doing?
Well, in the Breakthrough Experience program, which is one of my signature programs, which I've done about 1,089 times over the last 30 years almost, I basically help people identify who they look up to that they think are great leaders, the great masters in any field. So it could be spiritual leaders, it could be intellectual leaders and geniuses, it could be business leaders, financial leaders, family leaders and dynasties, social, political leaders, or physical health and Olympiads, the gold medalists. Find the leaders and then go and find out what traits, action or inaction do they display or demonstrate that you admire, that you look up to, that you're too humble to admit you have to the same degree. Find out what that is. Then go and ask where and when do you demonstrate that and display that, and keep documenting where and when you do it until you're convinced that you actually demonstrated it in your own form to the same degree, quantitatively and qualitatively. The moment you do, you will stand on their shoulders and not in their shadows. And all of a sudden, you'll play in the same field of possibility with them. And you'll see opportunities come to you that you never dreamed were possible. So in the Breakthrough Experience, I help people do that. I call it owning the traits of the greats and waking up what's sitting there dormant inside you. And I've watched amazing things happen when people start to do that. They expand their game and they play a bigger game. And when they start to do that, they go, oh, my God, I learned something from the Bonpo Lama in Nepal when I was in Nepal at his temple there. There's nothing missing in the human being. And as long as we have this perception that there's something missing in us, we'll have this void that'll make us play small. And that's why you want to find out whatever you see in others is inside you, both hero and villain, because you're both. You know, you can see Hillary and Donald right now are both heroes and villains to the world. The supporters and challengers see them differently. You've got to be able to embrace both sides of that if you want to make it to the top.
I love that, owning the traits, the greats. And I have to say that was, you know, when you shared that, I remembered that exercise, and that was super powerful, not only for me, but for those that I was participating in that exercise with. That's a really great way to do that. Thanks for sharing that. That's great.
Thank you.
So, Dr. John Demartini, I know you shared about where people can find you, and it sounds like you have a lot of gifts for people on your website, for people, videos, processes. I mean, it sounds like you've got a load of stuff for people to get support. And so I just want to direct people to your website. It's drdemartini.com. And you're all over the world. I mean, you're everywhere. You're doing programs, so people can find your upcoming programs and stuff on your site. Is there anything else that you want to share to let people know about what you're up to?
Well, just no matter what anybody else says about you, the opinions are the cheapest commodities on earth, and those that circulate the most have the least value. So don't let the world on the outside dictate your the world on the inside. I said in the movie The Secret, when the voice and the vision on the inside is greater and louder and more profound than all opinions on the outside, you've mastered your life. So let the voice and the vision on the inside dictate your destiny, not the opinions on the outside. You're going to get bombarded by opinions. I get bombarded by opinions every week. And that's not what matters. What matters is your own dream. And what happens is the opinions on the outside change if you never give up on your dream.
That's really deep. Can you say that last part again?
I said, well, all the opinions on the outside fluctuate like the weather. And you can't let that run you, because your mission is something steady, not something that's fluctuant, not something that's a perturbation. So you want to make sure that you focus on the vision on the inside and the voice on the inside and the mission on the inside. The brain is set up with the right hemisphere for vision, left hemisphere for vocal, and the center and integration of the two is the mission. And if you focus on that in the executive center and not on the opinions on the outside, the opinions on the outside will change. The people that once condemned you will then eventually look up to you. And the people that once looked up to you will sometimes be jealous. I mean, that's part of the game. Just get on with it and go do something amazing with your life and embrace the support and the challenge and the hero and the villain and all the labels that people throw at you, and go do something amazing and leave your mark. You'll always have people that are doomsday and zoomsday, and you always want to have your heart bigger than the illusions of the psychosis of the outer world.
This is great. What a great way to end this topic. I mean, that's really powerful. So thank you so much, Dr. John Demartini, for being here with us and for sharing so much of your wisdom. I just encourage anybody out there, if you find that Dr. Demartini is coming to your area, or you can get over to experience one of his programs live, it's amazing. You truly, truly will get so much value out of it. And so for all of you listening, this is Phyliss Francis Wigfall here with Dr. John Demartini. And thank you so much. And just so you know, the website is right below the audio, so you can click on there. It'll take you to Dr. John Demartini's site so that you can connect with all of the gifts and the information that he has for you. So thank you for being with us today.
Thank you, Phyliss. I appreciate the opportunity.